to learn something that you missed. I'll say a couple things I got to reiterate. Be on time, and many of you were not on time today. 11 o'clock means 11 o'clock. For 5:30 games, you need to be there at 5:15. For weekend games, you need to be there 15 minutes before the scheduled game time. That does not mean 14 minutes. That means 15 minutes or earlier. Be there on time. That's part of the job. If you're late, I give you a check, and you've seen the policy. We won't have to go into that. Be on time and be prepared. As I said in the first time, take 5 minutes and look at the local rules, certainly early in the season, for the division you're working on. There's differences between baseball and softball, between all the divisions, but it's pretty concise. They've combined the softball rules this year. Take a look at them quickly, understand what the basics are. I'll be sending out a few things this week. The lightning and thunder policy, signs of concussion, and bat logos, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Print these out, put them in the bag, put them in your equipment bag so you always have them at games. If anybody was not at the first session and didn't get rule books, I have some rule books, get those afterwards. The most important part of this job, again, we talked about this last time, but I cannot stress enough. Making the calls is not the most important part of the job, though of course it's very important. Safety of the players is first, game management is second. By game management, I mean getting games started on time, keeping it moving. Unless weather or the allowable delay for not having enough players, get the game on time, keep it moving. In innings of wasting time and coaches chatter, keep it moving. In between innings, get them back on the field, get the pitcher doing his warm-ups, keep it moving. You'll find very quickly it is difficult, particularly in the lower divisions, to get full 6-inning games done in the time limit. That's our goal. We want the kids to play full games, not 4-inning games, not 5-inning games. That's incumbent on you to keep things moving. And last and certainly not least, before we even get to calls, your energy and your attitude. We talked a lot about this at the PCA training for first-timers, a little bit last time. Come in there, good body language, energy, act like you want to be there. When I come to games, and I do go a lot of games, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to make sure you're not on your phone, that you're there on time, that you're putting out across the proper demeanor. That's what's important to me. You blow a call, honestly, we don't care. I'll tell you if I think there's something you could do better on, but that's what I'm looking for, you guys to come with the right energy and the right attitude. Pre-game prep, and we didn't really talk about this the first time. Again, usually the more senior umpire will already know this, but you guys all should know this. Before the game, about 5 minutes before game time, meet with the coaches. I need you to understand the different, and they aren't that complicated, ground rules for the different fields. Again, there's these two fields, there's the Lorenzen field, there's Central, and then there's of course Getz for Majors Plus, and occasionally for a Majors game. Jeff, you want to address ground rules a little bit?
Well, sure. A couple of things you guys want to do, and to piggyback on what Dave says, you want to be there on time and get with your partner. Now, hopefully your partner's on time, and hopefully you're not doing the game by yourself. Go over where you are, what division it is, some of the different types of rules that you might encounter. For example, in baseball, green with some of the different rules, 9 batters, and so forth. Or softball, green if there's 4 consecutive walks. What happens? Great job, people. What happens? Okay, thanks, guys. Way to be on it there this morning. And then ground rules. You want to go over the ground rules because every field has some different types of rules. Now, hopefully the fields will be lined, but for this field, you're going to want to take and this you need to go over with the coaches. And the coaches, a lot of times when you go over ground rules, aren't going to listen. And then sure enough, something's going to happen in the game, and they're going to be like, what do you mean with it? And you say, Coach, we went over that in the ground rules. So for example, here at Flint B, there's a line that extends from this pole all the way down. Now, hopefully it'll be lined. I'm pretty sure it will be. But if you're doing the 4th game on a Saturday or Sunday, it might be kind of tough to see. That's your job to make those calls. That's the dead ball line. Anything that goes past there is dead. Runners will advance. Okay, you got to know that. You got to know that the tree is out of bounds over here on this field. Anything that flies over is going to be an extra base, out of bounds. Those are some of the important ones. At Lorenzen, you have the covering, things of that nature. But again, get with your partner, go over the rules, make sure you guys are at least on the same page, okay? And those ground rules are important.
Yeah.
Go over the steals. How many? If you're in blue, you get 2 steals, right? If you're doing softball majors, you get 4 steals, including one of home.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
You know, you want to go over those things with the coaches. Some of the more seasoned coaches know these rules. Some of the younger coaches don't, in blue and green in every division. So go over it with them. Just get used to doing it as a habit. And again, it can only happen when you show up 15 minutes before your game, not where you're scrambling to run out and put a mask on and start calling balls and strikes. Anything else, Matt, Dave, anything you guys want to add on to that about pregame?
Make sure all the kids are have legal equipment.
Oh.
Well, I was going to, so on bats, thank you, David. On
segue.
bats, I need you to, 2 things need to also happen. The coaches should have exchanged lineups. You don't necessarily need to look at the lineup, but they should have exchanged lineups, and I'll refer to an issue on lineups a little later. They also need to line up all of their bats. In baseball, the bats need to have the USA Baseball logo. I will send that out together with the other communication this week. In softball, it's just a matter of, and I don't know if any of you guys know this more than I do, in softball, it must be a softball bat. You cannot use, there's not a designation, but it cannot be a baseball bat in softball. So ask each team on their side near the bench to line up all the bats, have the coaches help you. Again, you don't need to be wrangling kids. Tell the coaches, get the bats lined up, take a quick look. It almost never happens, but again, you have to take a look. So bats are really important. The lineups need to have been exchanged, and again, I'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, and why don't we go over that real quick too? Dave talked about managing the game, and I'm going to go back to this, especially in green and blue, in both baseball and softball. There's usually 3 and sometimes 4 coaches there doing something. If you see nobody's warming up the pitcher, say, Coach, get out there and warm up the pitcher, please. Okay? This is where you guys are going to, some of you young guys, you're going to have to stand up and say that to the coaches. Because a lot of times they either don't know or, God forbid, they don't care, but they're just kind of sitting over there or talking with parents or whatever, and you got a pitcher standing out there and you're losing time. Again, we want the games to keep moving. Remind them. What I like to do is with 2 outs, I remind the coach, 2 outs, is your catcher available? And then that way you're planting the seed, okay, to keep the games moving. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's great. And again, use the coaches. Remember, we talked about this in terms of unruly parents. The coaches are supposed to be your partners here. They know what rules are supposed to be going on. They know what the values of the league are for issues of equipment, for issues of keeping the game moving, for issues of any bad behavior. Again, utilize the coaches to help you get done what needs to get done. Speaking of bad behavior, something that came up in PCA training and by somebody at the first training as well, profanity. And again, we're not looking for you to be cops. I've told you what's really important, but the fact of the matter is, if profanity, and you know what the magic words are, if it is directed at you or a player, if a player directs a profanity at you, if a player directs a profanity at a coach or another player, it's an automatic ejection. All right? If it's not directed, let's say they get hit by a pitch and they say something in pain. If they strike out with the bases loaded and they yell the F word, give them a warning. All right? You're not, but again, if it's...
Yeah, because those 8-year-olds are going to be dropping F-bombs left and right.
It has happened. It has happened. So again, now if a coach and another coach get into it, don't get in the middle of adults battling. Just tell them to stop. But coach on coach really isn't your problem. But again, that becomes more about game management.
And that will happen with coaches yelling. And many of the kids here's fathers, I had to tell, come on guys, we're going to have a discussion, get away from everyone. And then you have to talk with them and say, guys, you're not representing yourselves well here by yelling at each other across the dugouts. You can't have that.
And again, I will be at the coaches meetings on Wednesday and Thursday of this week and having this same conversation explaining how that works. All right, moving right along. Try to get through this quickly. A couple of questions. Thanks, Liz. A couple of questions that a lot of people have got wrong. I've had, I think, 54 tests submitted so far, and these are ones that over 20% of the people have gotten wrong. The minimum number of players Baseball and softball are different. Softball is 7, baseball is 6, I believe. But take a look at it. Take a look at it again. And there's just one. You guys just didn't read enough of it. You guys didn't read enough of the rules. First base, third base, coach touching. Again, a lot of you guys got this wrong. If it is incidental contact, the runner at first is rounding and collides with a sleeping first base coach, that's okay. It is when, because the question was worded, but does not, help. Does not help the runner. If they're, and again, having been a first base coach, there's an inclination. A guy's about to take off. You got to. If they pull them back, if they push them forward to run, that is aiding the runner. That is an automatic out.
Now, a lot of that will happen at third, with the younger kids.
Right. Guys rounding third, trying to go home, and they try to pull them back. Again, it is much more likely at third than at first. A bunch you got wrong the issue of, and again, this is the type of rule, and that, as is the minimum number of players. These are things the coaches should know and have the rules with them and help you. It's not all on you. Here's another one. Where do late arrivals go in the batting order? And the issue with that question, the key was we said that they were not on the lineup that's been exchanged. That's why it's important for them to exchange lineups so they can do their book and they can track the game. If somebody was not in that lineup, they automatically go to the end. If they were in that written lineup, this is a little confusing and I lost an argument because I want to simplify it. If they're in the written lineup and that spot has not happened yet, has not come up to bat yet, and then they arrive, they can go into their slot. If they missed it, they automatically go back to the bottom, right? Guys, stop me if you have any questions. And last but not least, and this will be better done by Jeff when we're out on the field, a lot of you got, in our mind, incorrect the one about the double first base. And part of this was a poorly worded question. But I have clarified the rule. The issue is, remember, the white base is for the fielder, the orange base is for the runner. It's a safety issue. It's to keep a clear path for the runner. But what happens occasionally is the throw is a little bit offline and the fielder, first baseman, will move and touch the orange base. They cannot sit up on the orange base. If, in your judgment, it's the throw that took them there, they can touch both bases. Again, you cannot make an out. Obviously, tag is different. If tag, they're out. By the normal first base play, you cannot make an out by only touching the orange base. You touch the white base. If your momentum takes you over to the orange, in your judgment, that's okay. But otherwise, the first baseman needs to stay out of the orange base. We'll show you that with the double base out on the field. Any questions about any of those that people don't understand? Okay. Finally, getting towards the end. The season starts a week from tomorrow, weather allowing. The first week's schedule will come out maybe as early as tomorrow, no later than Tuesday, and then I'm going to do the second week pretty quickly because I'm leaving town for a few days. Again, you have to read my emails. You have to read my emails. Once we're in season, starting like now, if you don't normally check email, you want this job, you have to check email. I'm going to send out the schedule. Read the cover note carefully. There will be instructions of what to do and how to do it. But one of the instructions will be how to search, something I didn't know before. You can search, there's a search function on the spreadsheet. That search function will highlight your name anywhere on the sheet. And remember, you're not going to know from week to week whether I've scheduled you one time, whether I've scheduled you 4 times. So sometimes you might think, oh, there's my slot, I'm not working anymore. That may be wrong. I recommend using the search function or at least going through that entire week very carefully and finding your slot. If you have not passed your test or told me your availability, you will not be on the first week's schedule. Okay? As soon as you pass your test, even if you're not on the schedule, you can of course look for openings, because again, there are always openings. Once you see your slots and you see a conflict, let me know immediately. All right? Letting me know later, even if you're before the 24 hours where you get penalized, you're doing 3 things. You're making my life more difficult, which I don't appreciate. Number 2, you're potentially hurting the kids, because if I have a hard time by later notice that I can't find another another umpire. Games are going to happen with one ump, which is not the end of the world, but not ideal. That's why we have 2 umps. So again, you're hurting the kids, and lastly, you're hurting your fellow umpires who, if they had known earlier, might have grabbed another slot and made some more money. Again, take a look as soon as it comes out. Let me know immediately if you can't do it. Questions on any of this? All right. One last thing. Some people I need to see after the training, as we segue into equipment pickup. I need to see Evan Williams, Clark Cooper. I'm not sure who's here and who's not. Christian Frabasile, David Carpenzano, both Friedmans, Price McKinney, Max McLaughlin, who I don't see, Asher Tannenbaum, Dave Anderson, who's coming, not here, Jeremy Jacob, and Mateo Cooper. When Jeff is done with the training, I need to see you guys after for a quick word. Okay? And now I'm going to turn over to Jeff. We're going to talk about positioning, obstruction, and interference, things like that.
Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, before we go, this is the easiest way to do it.
All right, let's get out onto the field a little bit.
Thank you.
Positioning, where you want to be. Give yourself a good angle where you can see everything. You don't want to be directly behind your catcher. You want to be a little bit on one side or the other where you have the angle and you can see, okay? If you're doing the green games, don't end up back here because the catcher's back here. What are we going to do in that situation? Move them up. If you have to, kind of grab them by the straps and pull them up a little and say, here's where you need to be, okay? What else are we going to encourage in the younger division with our catcher? Who said that? Say it loudly, please. We're outdoors. Yeah, what are you going to encourage him to do? To make the throw. If Dave goes around the games and sees catchers rolling the ball out back to the pitcher or not really giving an effort, and you're just like standing there like this, that's not good. You have to be actively participating here and encouraging those throws, or the game will take forever and it'll be extremely boring, not only for you, but for the kids and the parents, all right? Now, in the situation where you might be by yourself, we talk about getting angles all the time. If you're gonna be here, you should never be standing here and making a call on an out at first base. Again, by yourself doing a game. You've got to get out, get set, and make a call. Have an angle to see it. Don't be standing back here, because I'll tell you what, there's nothing worse for a coach to see an umpire standing back here trying to make calls. That just shows he's lazy. Okay? So anything else? You guys are in charge back here of managing, especially in the younger divisions, managing the catcher, managing the pitcher to get ready. If he has to, walk him down. These are things hopefully you guys have seen if you've done green for a year or two, and you can really start developing on that. It will seem like review. Home plate. Any other questions at home? All right, let's take a walk down to first. Jump in with anything you got. Up. That's fine, that's fine. So again, positioning. Nobody on, right? Situation, you want to be relatively where you can see fair and foul. Because again, who's got fair and foul past the bag?
Field on, guys.
Come on, guys.
Field on, guys, past the base. Come on.
All right. Who's got fair and foul from home to the bag? Okay. All right, so let's just watch a couple plays here happen with a runner, and I want to see the call made, okay? We worked on making calls, right? So I'm going to randomly pick a few of you out to come out here and make a call. All right, what are we looking for when we make this call? This is the most common call you're going to have in the game, so play it first, right? What do we want to see?
Loud.
We want to be loud. Do we want to be making the call from there?
No.
Do we want to be making the call from here?
No.
Maybe. Maybe here? Do we want to be making the call on the move?
No.
Okay. Let's see how this young lady does it. All right, Lil, you ready? Get on first. Go. Ow! Okay, well, don't call them out till they catches the ball, all right? We're not anticipating. You ever play first with your left foot on the bag? Come on, let's go. Wake up. Here we go. Again, Lil. Mr. Perez, come on out here and be an umpire. Let's go. You ready, Lil? Go ahead, Lil.
Out.
Okay. Okay. All right. I don't know.
Call is the call.
Yes, you. Don't hide back there. Come on now. Here we go. Give me a runner. Somebody. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, you elder statesman. Right foot on the back. Wait a second. Right foot on the back. Just so you can know, because it bothers me.
That's not how you roll.
No. Turn around. You're receiving a ball. There you go. All right. Okay, go ahead.
Safe.
Oh, nice call. Nice call. Good job. Anybody else come out and run and give me an umpire here. Let's go. Come on. There you go.
Safe.
Good call. All right. Let's do one more. Mr. Plunkett, you can run because I know you've got wheels. And you come on out, Nump. Let's go.
Let's go, JR. CJ.
Okay, here we go.
FQ.
Oh, man. Love the effort there. All right, here we go.
Ah, boo.
All right, so a lot of things, right? Positioning there to see, getting a position where you can see. You want to see the play and you want to hear the ball hit the glove. You want to take a picture in your mind for a second and then make your call. Because you don't want to be doing your save, right? Take a second. Everyone will appreciate the fact that you're taking that second to make the call. Okay? Now, you know, our league has a rule now with this orange base, and as David alluded to, that if in the judgment of the umpire, he happened to have to jump, land here, is he out or safe? If he beats the runner, obviously. Out. Regular play, routine play, he's standing here like this, catches it before the runner, is he out or safe?
Safe.
Good. That's going to come up in your games. I guarantee it's going to come up. And we're just putting a little more on your plate. You're going to have to make that judgment call. Okay? Anybody have any questions on that? Remember, it's only if, in your opinion, your judgment, and that's why we pay you the big money, to be able to make these calls. Let's say he had to come all the way over here and he just caught it like this and the ball took him out. Out or safe? Oh, a little hesitancy there. Yes, he's out. Remember, if in your judgment the play made him go to have to utilize the orange bag, he's out. Am I explaining this the way the league wants? Well, go ahead. I'm not a big fan of this.
It's not instead of, it's in addition to.
Okay.
So the white base must be, it's as if the orange base doesn't exist for the fielder until you've touched it, and then if your momentum takes you to the orange, you won't be called for obstruction. It's essentially it. So you must use the white base. But again, orange, not good if they set up there. Okay if in the judgment the call is taken.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. Thank you. Great job. Let's talk a little bit about obstruction and interference. So let me have a base runner, Mr. Kerwin and the Mets. You can be the base runner. Gavin, come on out and be, I guess for the argument's sake, you could be a first baseman. And let's say you're the runner and you're going to be rounding first, okay? You're the first baseman, not really paying attention, just happen to be standing here, okay? So runner comes in, you come just stand like you're not really knowing what's going on, which is what's going to happen. He's going to come around, he's going to hit him, he's going to fall, you're going to have a train wreck. You're going to have bodies down, okay? What do we have there? Thank you, Coach. We have obstruction there. Obstruction, again, when you see obstruction, your arm goes out like this. It doesn't mean you make a call right away. You just put your arm out like this. So here's what, let's say this happens on that play. And I'm just going to give you this example. So he knocks him down. You fall down, but get up and keep going to second. The ball comes here. The first baseman gets up, picks it up, throws to second, and they tag him out. Now, you as that first base up, you saw what happened. You saw that it's obstruction. You put your arm out, right? The play goes, he's called out. But then what happens? What are you going to call? You're going to call obstruction, the runner's safe. Yes.
So, aren't you making the call at second base? So you would call him out and then call him safe?
Well, I guess, yeah, in essence, you would, because that is your call. Because we're not going to have 3 umpires out here, so that is going to be your call.
Guys, did everybody hear that and understand that? You've made the obstruction call. You still call the play at second base, and then again.
For every field, and again, back to positioning, for every field other than gets, you're going to be behind the infield. Whereas at gets, I'm saying with a runner on first, not for this example, but for a runner on first, you're going to be inside. Just back to positioning, okay? Only at gets do you have enough room to be on the inside as a first base umpire. Does everybody got that? Any questions? Okay, so that's obstruction. Anything else, guys?
Guys, it's a judgment call. If, like Jeff said, they can make collision after first, runner gets up and sprints, and he gets thrown out by 20 feet. In your mind, would he have made the base if there was no collision? That's what the call really is. Is that runner able to make that base in time? If it was a bang-bang play at second, and he was knocked down, and he got up and got thrown out by a foot, yeah, give him the base. The runner's halfway down the field, and the ball's already launched to second base. Did that knockdown really stop him to get an extra 20, 30 feet? And that half a second the ball took to get to the bag? That's what it really is. Yes, he is awarded. He is rewarded first. He gets first automatically. Guys, the rule is that he gets to the next base on your judgment of it. It's not automatic. It's not real automatic he gets to the next base. It's not the rule. The rule is, in your judgment, would he have made that next base? On a bang-bang play? Yeah, give it to him. That knockdown cost him that extra half a second when he would have been standing up already.
And where you're going to see that also is in the younger divisions. The kids are going to stand on the base, even though there's not a play at that base.
Well, that's the other problem too, guys. Remember,
you have to be aware of that. At second base, the second baseman saw a ball go to the outfield. Well, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just standing on the base.
And you're gonna have coaches yelling at kids, go to the bag, go to the bag. And guess what?
There's no play there.
There's no play there, and he's gonna run into him, or there is a play, and the kid's standing on the base, and the kid touches him. Now what are you gonna do? You're gonna call the runner out for making contact? Like, you gotta ease your judgment on how you're gonna call these things. Upper divisions, you're gonna call it like it's written out. Lower divisions,
that's a great point. That's a great point.
Give him the runner the more benefit of the doubt than the fielder.
All right, so everybody clear? I know, and that again, it's a judgment. We're putting more on your plate. Obstruction, okay? Now, let's talk interference. So, you'll be the first baseman. Ball, just come over here. You could be anyone. Second baseman, whatever. Come up a little more. You're the runner, Gavin. Just kind of run into him. Literally into him. Okay, so there he hit him, knocks the ball away. Who has the right of way here? Fielder. Yes, the fielder has the right of way, okay? That's interference, all right, in that case scenario. So obstruction is on the defensive player. Interference is on the offensive player,
Jeff,
the runner.
Any difference between where the ball is in terms of being fielded?
Well,
he has to be able to make a play on it.
yeah.
If he's like if that ball's 4 feet away from him and that fielder isn't moving for it, you're not going to call that. You're not going to call runner's interference because that fielder had no chance to get a ball. If he's stepping up like he's ready to pick it up and go, and then all of a sudden he gets knocked and the ball goes through his legs, yeah, you're going to call it. He had a chance to make a play. Runner didn't give it to him, right? That also is a dead ball foul, guys. That's immediate. Everyone stops. Obstruction, delay, interference, out. Everyone stops the play. And in Little League, guys, real simple. Bases loaded. Guy at second runs into second baseman. The guy at third doesn't score anymore. He's no longer forced to move. It's only if they're forced to move around. Everyone has to get pushed back to the base they started on. And it's the rule book. And it's hard to tell coaches like, hey, the ball's in play. Yeah, but you're running right into a fielder, coach. The guy at third can't advance.
Guys,
Because the guy who's moving them doesn't move them anymore.
can you just talk for another second on that of just, and in both perhaps obstruction and interference, call has been made.
Okay,
And-
so
and where do
we'll
the
do
runners-
obstruction. Let's
placing-
start with
placing the
obstruction.
runners.
If obstruction happens, guys, you can do one of two things, like Jeff said. You put your hand out and run. Yep, I got obstruction at first base. Or you can yell, I got obstruction, I have obstruction, and just stand there. Just know that you have it. Point your finger out. Then make your call.
Now, if he's safe there,
He's safe.
then nothing happens. It's just nothing. You don't need to do anything.
But what else about any placement of runners elsewhere?
That's it. The placement of runners stay with how the obstruction goes out. If that play on obstruction, if there's bases loaded and the batter runner gets obstructed or a runner gets obstructed somewhere else, that play continues as normal. Now, if that other runner gets thrown out going home and the batter runner ends up at third, he stays at third. He doesn't get pushed backwards. He doesn't. Everyone advances at their own risk after that, pretty much. It's almost like a pop-up fly, guys. You advance at your own risk after the first contact.
So obstruction is live.
Now, runner's interference,
is
though, that's totally different. That's going to negate everything. And depending on especially who it is.
Obstruction is live unless it's on the runner being made, with the play being made. Then it's dead.
No.
Yeah.
All obstruction has to be live.
If a guy hits a ball, it's a double, and he's obstructed on his way to second, and there's no other runners, then
That's it, yeah.
play
But
being
there's
made.
other runners on it. On there, it's different.
But if there's obstruction, say at second base,
Yep.
right, then it's a dead ball.
Oh, it's dead. It has to stay live. Obstruction can't kill a ball.
Sure.
No, it can't.
There's two types of obstruction.
All right, well, we'll get on that with
Yeah,
with the
we'll
books.
clarify.
We'll get on that with the book. Let's talk about something else that was a question on the test and that sometimes coaches don't understand. You're the fielder, you're the runner. I want you to stay right there, Mr. Kerwin. You're going to run by on the inside of him, and I'm going to hit you with the ball. Very softly. Okay, go ahead. So he gets hit with that ball. Is he out? Okay. Now you're going to run behind him. And correct me if I'm wrong with this. You come up a little bit. So it's going past him. Is he out there? Okay. Because it went by a fielder, correct? Yep. Everybody got that?
Guys, pay attention, please.
Who's the only fielder it doesn't count for? Guys, on a hit ball, it's the only fielder it doesn't count. If it goes by him. Pitcher. Why? Guys, that reaction time's not there for him. These guys are 60 feet away. He's 40-something. Pitcher doesn't count as an infield at that time.
Everybody got that? All right. Some basics to think about. So you see where Matt is? So runner's on first. That's a good position for him. Because where is he responsible? And oh, this you should go over in your pregame. Because depending on field size, depending on the division that you're in, some cases, home plate umpire, I'll take home and third. In other cases, and this is what I like to talk about with whoever I'm working with, the field ump will take first, second, and third. But let's say he's tracking a fly ball out to right, and I'm the home plate umpire, and there's going to be a play happening at third, and we'd already said he'll cover everything. Well, what I'm going to do now is yell, I got three, I got three. And I'm going to march down to get an angle at that play at third. And God forbid it gets by somebody and there's a play at home, what am I going to have to then do? Get back to home, right? Has everybody got that? But again, you need to go over those things in your pregame, which is important, again, to be how many minutes before the game? There you go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Tag ups. Who can give me a quick description of a tag up and what's illegal? Go ahead, Gavin.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Follow me.
Loudly, loudly. I'm losing my voice.
Just one tag up is?
Yeah, a tag up and when it's legal and when it's not legal.
So when there's,
That's the ball. Here's the ball's going to be caught. He's in the outfield.
if you're off base, that's going on. Once the ball enters the glove, you can then leave the base and go to the next base.
Okay. And whose
Legally.
responsibility for that, say at first base, would this be? As an ump? Home? or your field ump. Could be either one. Because your field ump might, for whatever reason, be over there, home. And this is the other thing, guys. Every ump should watch as much of the play as they can, but they're responsible for certain obvious plays. But there's going to come a play, it's going to be a bang-bang play, and somehow the field ump might have been out of position and couldn't see anything. You, as a home ump, should be out a little bit, again, not back behind home plate. You should be out a little bit, giving yourself an angle to have another set of eyes on that play. Okay? And if by chance he can't make a call and he's not sure of it, the play's dead, he stops everything, get together and get the call right. We'd rather get the call right. And this is hard sometimes when you have to be honest that you were blocked from a call and couldn't see it. It happens occasionally, all right? But everybody, that's why every ump should be watching where there's plays being made. Everything else is relative to what we discussed here, but I want to go back a little to the obstruction and interference. Any other questions on that? And again, we're putting a little more judgment on you to watch it, but I think Matt made a great point. If it's not a tremendous advantage was gained by the mishap, don't reward it. But you should get in that habit of kind of watching it, and especially, unfortunately, it's going to happen so much in the younger divisions where the kids don't know where to go. The first baseman will stand like right here, and as that kid's rounding first, hit into him, bounce him around, whatever. You have to use your judgment. That's really key.
Can I just interject?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, again, absolutely make yourself familiar with the local rules. I know the national rules are a little tougher. Obviously, there's a lot there. There were a couple questions. I do recommend for interference and obstruction in both softball and baseball, there's a section called definition of terms, and it lays out at least some fairly succinct explanation of interference and obstruction. It's worth taking a quick look at how it's written in the national book. Okay.
Does anybody have any specific questions or situations they'd like addressed? Or you saw something in a travel game or your high school game or anything that you'd like addressed? Okay, because, all right, some of you guys are going to do Majors Plus this year for the first time, and that's who we already are going to talk to after about the ball. We'll go over that.
Again, you know, I sometimes have a shortage on weekdays, since a lot of you guys cannot work weekdays, at least until your baseball season is over. So there's a few of you I want to make sure understand the live ball situation and calling balks. So a couple of you I'm going to grab for a few minutes after. I called some of your names after, and Jeff will go over that stuff. For most, again, it only applies to Majors Plus in baseball. It has no relevance in the any other baseball or softball division. So there's no need to kind of confuse you guys on most of that. For most of that, okay.
All right. So is everybody good with their positioning? Where you're going to be?
We should definitely talk about more runners on base.
Okay.
First and second. Where to be when it's first and second.
All right, so if there's runners at, let's go all, everybody come on, let's move a little bit.